Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. There's something holding you back, holding me back, everybody. It's holding us back from living the life that we really want to live. And many times it's the F word. I'm going to say that word right here, 4 letters, by the way, fear. Fear holds us back, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you realize it or not. We have fear. And we're going to talk about facing those fears and moving your life forward. And she is our professional of the year as a dream life coach, and back with us with insight on that, and the guest as well, Miriam Wright is back on the program. Hi, Miriam. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. How are you?
Very well. Very well. Good to have you back here. And also back with us is somebody that we spoke with last week. Miriam, please introduce her.
This is Tammy Workman Lopez, and she is also a coach. She's been my friend for about 15 years, and we're going to talk about fighting fear today.
Tell us about fear in your eyes, Miriam. How does that look to you, and how does that impact our lives?
Fear is, like they say, false evidence appearing real. That's true to a point. Fear is the same as excitement. Fear and excitement are pretty much the same, because if you see, your body reacts the same way to both. When you're excited, and when your fear is like, when you're calm, is a totally different. So it's actually what you tell your brain. What you tell your brain. When you feel fear coming on, what is your brain saying? What are you telling yourself? Can you change that? Can you change what your brain is thinking? Because your brain is there to protect us from harming ourselves, from doing anything that's going to hurt us. So once your fear starts kicking in, your brain is saying, wait a minute, what's going on? Well, when you start changing your mindset and what are you thinking, you start calming down. You start thinking differently. You start, what if? And somebody want to stop me. When you start being afraid of something, put a picture in your mind. Like, let's say we were talking about moving to Italy. I'm afraid to move to Italy. Oh my God, whatever. Put yourself, I don't know, somewhere in Italy. Keep that picture in your mind. Keep it in your mind. Keep it in your mind. And you see how you fear. You go through, you get on the plane, you get there, you're fine. Because that picture is your end result.
I've often heard that, and research backs this up, and they continually do it, and it typically comes in at about 93%, right in that territory. 93% of the things that we fear, we worry about, never materialize.
Never comes true. Never comes true.
It really is a complete waste of time, energy that you're using up in worrying about it.
Yes.
Tammy, your thoughts so far?
Sure. Fear has been my best friend growing up my whole life. And I say it that way facetiously, but also fear is actually an aspect of keeping ourselves safe. So the idea is it's meant to keep us healthy. The more we can connect with it as the purpose, or as the purpose, the less we spend all this time fighting it. Right. And a lot of times people think, I'm not afraid. What do you mean I'm afraid? Well, if we're telling ourselves, I should do this, I should do that, I can't do this, all of those doubts and uncertainties, that's fear. But people don't understand that's what fear is. So if we can stop it the moment it starts, and not stop it to just ignore it, but to stop it and go, okay, so instead of what people always do is they say, what's wrong with me? Instead, we get to ask, what do I need? What is this telling me I need? It is there for a reason. So if it's saying I should be doing that, okay, so what truth of should be doing that? Is there some skill I need to learn?
Hmm.
Is there a boundary I need to set, which is almost always the case? It's either a boundary with someone else or a situation or with ourself by learning how to change that way of thinking. A big part of these things start when we're little. We don't know that we've done them. And so they're stored in our subconscious mind. So these fears seem like there's something that are outside of us, but they've just become an automatic thought process and an action response. And then we go into fight, flight, fear, or fawn. And then we're doing something else, which has, we're not addressing the true issue. So we just end up in all these symptoms of behaviors instead of being able to take it on.
Would you say that when you start facing those fears one by one, some of the bigger ones, some of the little ones, that eventually gets easier and you have less anxiety because you have more, I guess, faith in yourself?
I can say both yes and no to that. There are people, myself included, who we learn to try to overcome them. And so we get used to overcoming them, but it's still exhausting. It
Hmm.
still us down, it still burns us out, and still at the end of it, we don't feel any less motivated. We're not really enjoying what we want the way we want to enjoy it. So if we're able to handle it in such a way that we're addressing it so it's not this undercurrent of, yeah, well, you're still not good enough, or you're still failing, or what about this, or what about that, or all that's still going on while we're, quote, surpassing the issue, then that's not really living the life the way we want to. But we are in the habit now of surpassing it. So we can do that. A lot of people who live in perfectionism do that.
Hmm.
Like, we're doing magnificent, but it's never perfect. I've just got to keep pushing harder and harder and harder. I can never acknowledge myself for what I've done or see my successes for where I am. So it's important to also include helping ourselves learn how to clean that up and really change those stories and change those beliefs, and realizing we think, oh, like Peter Pan, oh, well, if I just believe, it'll be well, if we change it and stop believing and shift into a new belief, we will literally take away the pain. We will literally take away the suffering. We will literally take away the not good enough and all the what ifs of that fear experience, or that not good enough or perfectionistic experience.
Hmm. Miriam, what's the first step in conquering that fear? We're looking at it. Let's say somebody has a fear of getting on a plane, and
Okay.
and there's many different aspects of that fear. Some fear the plane's going to crash. Some fear, well, what about if I have anxiety and I'm in this tin can at 30,000 feet? I can't get out of it. What do I do? What's the first step if somebody's looking at a fearful situation?
Accepting that fear is a natural emotion. It is a natural emotion. That's what our brain is there to protect us. Um, Identify exactly what it is you're afraid of. Are you afraid of the plane crashing? Or are you afraid of being on a height in heights? Or are you afraid of where you're going? What in that whole picture, what is it that you're truly afraid of?
Hmm. So what I'm gathering from you, and let's go back to the plane example, should you sit with yourself and identify exactly why you're fearful? What is it? What am I afraid of?
Exactly.
Is it
Exactly.
just the fear of the plane crashing? Is it the fear of what could go on during the plane? Because I have a friend that, and she eventually overcame it, but every time we would travel for work, she'd be the last person on the plane because she just was kind of wait till let me just like rush myself on. Um, and I don't know what her fear was. We never got into it, but now I'm seeing it like maybe that should be discussed with somebody else or within yourself. What am I afraid of? What is it?
That's the first thing, is identifying. The second thing I tell them is to give it a name. Make it a friend. Make it a friend. and take it along with you. See, hey, Joe, I have you with me. I want you here because I want you to see what I'm doing. I want you to go with me. I want you to see that, hey, there's nothing wrong here.
Hmm. The anxiety that comes along with fear, I think, is the driver in that. Is that the truth? That it's about the anxiety, the buildup?
Yes, yes, yes. And that's what they say when you start feeling afraid or ever start counting backwards, actually. Count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that gives your brain enough time to think, okay, wait a minute, and start thinking positive stuff. Get excited about what you're doing, not afraid of what you're doing. Those
Hmm.
5 seconds can change your whole journey.
Hmm.
Your whole journey.
I love giving it a name because now it becomes more real, and you're
And it's a friend,
identifying
you're
it.
carrying it along with you. Yep.
Right, right. Yeah, and you can even talk to it, I guess.
Yep.
Hey, fear,
Yes. Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
hey, Mike, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
See,
treat it.
you thought I couldn't do this. Look, hey, I'm doing it.
I'll share. I had a fear of blood tests, and I don't know where it came from. Pretty common. I had it throughout the years. Then there was one time where I went for a blood test, routine blood test. And the phlebotomist left the band on my arm. Then she was talking with somebody else, and I'm just waiting. She was done. I'm just waiting, like waiting, waiting, waiting. I'm like, oh, excuse me, I still have the band on. She goes, oh, yeah, okay. Let me take that off. And as soon as she let it off, like the pressure I got lightheaded at that moment. I'm like, I think I'm going down. I didn't, but that just fueled my fear that I already had. So that fear continued for a number of years later until in the last year and change, I flipped it around. And now I look at it as, oh, you're going for a blood test. It's going to take 30 seconds, if that, and you're doing something for yourself. You're going to get information. You're going to find out what's going on, if anything, and you'll take care of it. And it's to better you. So I looked at it in a different way. And now I have no fear. I don't, then the last time I went, for a second, I'm like, is it really gone? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I don't need to look at what they're doing, that I'll leave that, the way it is, but I'm all good with it. Walked in, walked out. So I don't know if that works for others, but just the mindset of looking at it, like a TV show. I'm going to look at it through this camera lens as opposed to, the fear lens. Tammy, what are your thoughts?
Everything that you guys have said is 100% spot on. So getting it out of your head is essential because I'm not sure if you know this, but if you think about your subconscious mind as your file cabinet of all your data, and then your conscious mind, you could think of it as like the whiteboard or the front of the computer. Well, your science says either 7 to 9 units of information can be housed in the conscious. Other science says 70 to 90. Either way, you think one thing and that pops 10 to 20 other things. And so it immediately fills up your conscious. And so the next new bits of information come up, and then all that has to go back into the subconscious and all that has to go forward. And that's a lot of work, which is why sometimes people say before they get out of bed, they're exhausted from that process. So if instead you could get it all out and you can look at it, it now gives your conscious mind the ability to be able to create and be that whiteboard. It also doesn't have to have the subconscious mind housing this incorrect data, some of it correct, some of it incorrect. So now it's out here and I can start to look at it, I can identify it. And that process of back and forth, that can calm down. So the body also feels calmer. And as I'm looking at these things now, I can start to take a look at what's silly and I can laugh at it and change that perspective, like you're talking about. Like, oh my gosh, that's silly. I'm not afraid. Or, that's actually pretty serious. I need to make sure I check into that. And so when I actually teach clients hypnotherapy, self-hypnosis, because were doing before is you were practicing negative self-hypnosis about the needle, about the pain, about passing out, about all the what ifs, those fear what ifs, and you shifted them into the positive what ifs. What if this is fine? And what if this is a few minutes? And what if this is for my health? And so when you take your focus off of the fear thing, which grows all of that nervous system, going into fight, flight, or freeze or fawn mode, you now shift your nervous system with those new thoughts into calm, relax, health, doing what I need to do. This tiny little needle is no big thing, right? So everything that you did is exactly what someone would need to do. Sometimes, like you said, though, it can last us for a very long period of time. So if we can get help and support to get it done really quick and not have to carry it with us for a long time, then that's even better. But that's exactly the what we're doing.
Huh.
We are self-hypnosis every single day.
Are we, when we engage in fear, we know it's coming. Are we hypnotizing ourselves in some small way?
100%.
We don't even know we're doing it. We're hypnotizing ourselves to say that this is bad, this is bad, this is bad.
Yes. And
Yes.
what's even more interesting is oftentimes you're just tapping into an old hypnosis program. Just like when you go to drive your car, you're tapping into an old program of how to drive the car. You don't have to think about a thing. So you don't even know it's there because our brain is the most magnificent computer. It takes what we're doing, it turns it into automatic, and it stores it. And we just tap it without realizing. We do the exact same thing with fear. And anxiety is just fear that we didn't address that got really big. Same as panic, right? I think of them as little big brother, right? Little brother is fear, bigger brother is anxiety, bigger brother is panic, and then super big brother is the phobias. And so if we can stop it down here, that fear thought, that first thought that says something's not okay, then we're fine. We just address it right there. But oftentimes we have the programming in somewhere of anxiety or panic, and we just immediately touch it and we're there in seconds because we've practiced it in different ways throughout life.
So in the example that I gave, because we were talking about it, let's say you went for a blood test, they left the band on, they took it off after a period of time, you felt like you were going to pass out, and that's where the fear began. It's not?
Nope, that's where the fear was reinforced.
Well, I'm saying, yes, I gotcha. I'm saying, let's say that's where it began. You didn't have a fear of blood tests. Everything was cool, or it's all good. And then all of a sudden that happened, and now you have a fear moving forward. Where does the self-hypnosis for that fear come into play? It wasn't in that moment, right? Because you reacted to what happened. Is it now the next time you go for a blood test because of that event? Then are you hypnotizing yourself for fear?
Yes. Well, I say yes. It depends on each person and it depends on the perception. And oftentimes that time that is now aware on our conscious level is not the time. There were many little times that were on more of a subconscious level or an unconscious level. And that happened. That's what had us read it as a trauma. And so we're holding it as a fear. If it happened that one time and we have no belief or thought about it, then no, that won't do it either. But usually there's a buildup of other things we're unaware of that when that final one happens, it confirmed everything and it solidifies it in.
Falsely confirmed it.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. All right. So, maybe you had a little bit of something floating on there about blood tests, and I'm going just completely hypothetical. Something floating out there, I'm like, I'll do it. I don't love it, but it's minimal until you get to that one event where I almost passed out, and then that was just like, aha! I knew that. I knew that. I needed to fear that, and now you just jumped in the car, and now you're speeding down the fear freeway, so to speak, until you turn it around.
They're afraid of the pain of the needle. They're afraid of seeing the white coat because it means so many things.
For sure.
They are afraid of the anesthesia wearing off. A lot of redheaded clients that I've had, their anesthesia runs out quicker, so they feel the pain intensely. For a lot of people, they don't know it. If they're going to go do any kind of work with doctors or needles, they hold their breath, so their body goes into panic mode, and they don't realize they're doing that. So there's a lot of things to take a look at to help retrain, calm your breathing, calm your body, calm your muscles. What can you focus on instead of the needle? What are some songs? And even I can do meditation recordings they listen to during those sessions. It's really distracting your mind during that time, which is exactly what you did.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you say distracting your mind, I distracted it by saying it's a good thing to go for the blood test.
Yep, you distracted it from the fear of what if all these things,
Yes.
and instead you replaced it with feeling healthy, feeling safe, feeling
Make it
fine,
exciting. Make it,
your breath, calming the situation. You did
Yeah.
it before, you programmed during, you programmed after. And so that solidified that everything was okay. So positive self-hypnosis. So we don't have to put a lot of focus in getting rid of. We put the focus in what is it that I need? How do I shift? And as I shift and give myself what I need, that will go away.
Well, let's hope that works because I have another one coming up.
As you
uh,
practice exactly
oh
what you
no.
yeah.
then you speak to yourself. I know this will work because I saw it worked before.
Right. And that's what I'm piloting on. I totally. And I feel that inside. We're just about out of time. I'm glad we talked about this because it's everything for all of us, and we didn't even get into how people can have a fear of success because
Mhm.
life may change. And how would I deal with that if I had all that money? I have somebody that in that men's group identified that they did admit it. I think yeah, I have a fear of success because he was naming all these things that he's not doing to move his life, his career forward. And he admitted it. So it shows up in all different ways. Uh, Miriam, how do we connect with you if somebody is dealing with fears and wants to eradicate them?
My website is Right Way to Your Dreams, right with a W, rightwaytoyourdreams.com. My phone number is 407-216-9129. And my email is coachmiriammw@gmail.com. And I was going to say, Tammy and I have both dealt with fear. I got into a hot air balloon and Tammy jumped out of a plane. So, hey,
Well,
it's doable.
well, I have made a commitment to myself before the summer's up. I'm jumping out of a plane. So, and one moment I'm like, yeah, no problem, we're gonna do it. And next minute it's like, well, what if I go down spinning like this and it makes me
You
sick? And
know,
then all that
she
stuff
had
is,
fun. We both had fun.
yeah,
So just do it and you'll see the reward at the end.
like Nike says, just do it.
Yes,
That's it.
Mhm.
exactly.
And don't
Exactly.
spin like that unless you ask them to.
Okay. Well, you know what it was? Somebody told me that they went down spinning. So, like, who knows? I don't know the situation. I wasn't there. Maybe it was a wind. I don't know, whatever.
Don't
Um,
compare yourself to anyone else.
yeah, and then there's that. Tammy, how do we find you?
You can look for me on any of the social medias at Coach Tammy Star, STAR. You can also reach me on my website at sparkshope.life dash book online. Or sorry, that's / book dash online. My phone number 954-657-3407. You can call or text. Yeah, and don't worry, you're going to go down normally, and then if you want to spin, they ask you, or you could just tell them, please don't make sure I spin at the end.
Oh, I will tell them that. Thank you. Thank you for both of you for today. Truly
One more
appreciate it.
thing before
Sure.
we go. My book is now on Amazon. Why
Oh,
worry?
Woohoo!
Why worry? Turn your concern, doubt, and fears into excitement.
I was not aware, and thank you for sharing that. Wow, fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, we'll catch up soon. Appreciate it.
Okay. And good luck.
Thank
Definitely
you
have
so
a plane.
Thank you,
Thank
Miriam.
you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.